Hi guys, Autumn Accountability Session 2022. This is the first of 4 sessions we'll run over the year. Essentially, if you're not sure what's going on, every member of the Executive Committee and the Democracy and Accountability Committee have submitted a report outlining the work they've done since being elected in July. That's been uploaded and has been available to view for around a week on the Young Greens website, although I'm also going to add it into the chat now, so you can read along the reports as the members of the committees give you a 2-minute summary of what they've been doing. I'll just run through the format as well. So basically in the Constitution, there is a set order of members of both committees. We will run through the reports in that order. So we'll start with the co-chairs, and then we will start with the treasurer, and then we'll have questions for the co-chairs and treasurer. Some questions have been pre-submitted. If you have any other questions whilst you're here, please send them to me, that's Young Greens, or if the other members of DAC are happy, to them. That includes Ash. No, it's not Ash, but Ash is on the call with a DAC member. That's Ollie, and there's also Seb, and George is here as well. I don't think Matt's here, but that's cool. You got 4 to choose from, so take your pick. Somebody asked before we started recording where the fire exits are. I'm not in a position to tell you where your own personal fire exits are, but if there is a fire, please don't stay on the call. You can answer questions at another time. I will also submit the Young Greens Safe Spaces policy into the chat. If you feel uncomfortable at any point, then please message me or one of our safeguarding officers, which is Ash, actually. This time it is Ash, and that is Ash. It's not Ollie, it's Ash. And I don't think that includes anything about fire exits, but if it does, then please let me know. Okay, if everybody is ready to start, then we'll do something called starting. Jane, yes, I'll put the link into the reports again. I think I probably put it in before you joined the call, so I'm extremely sorry about that. All right. The co-chairs are going to go first. Since they've only just joined, I'll give them another 30 seconds or so. And then once Jane is ready, then, oh, actually, no, Kelsey is first on the list, actually. I apologize. Jane or Kelsey, either of you, I'm happy for you to go first, and you can kick off whenever you are ready, and you'll have 2 minutes from when you start talking.
I'm happy to go first if you want, Jane. Yeah. Cool. Cool, I'll get going. Thanks so much, Josh, and thanks everyone. I apologize that we were a bit late coming, and this is a little bit rushed, but Jane and I are currently in the GPEX meeting as well, which probably summarizes much of this report sort of tone. It's been a super busy first few months after being re-elected back in July, and I wanted to cover all of this report by saying that the new execs that we're working with have been fantastic. It's been such a great opportunity to work with these people who have such great ideas, such great enthusiasm, and that's really made the last 3 months for me. So I want to start with that. Following convention, we obviously did a lot of work for the induction for our new committee, which has been fantastic, hearing about their ideas. We ran an in-person strategy day up in Birmingham, which feels like a very long time ago at the end of August, to talk about the strategy for the year and to bring people's plans together, kind of work out where our priorities are and how we're going to deliver that over the next year, with the impending threat of a general election looming rightly over all of our heads, and none more so than today. We also ran freshers events, or freshers sort of packs for Young Green groups across the country. So I helped a lot with the messaging and the kind of political content of those packs. They seem to have gone down really well. We're really excited about that. And I'm really glad we had the opportunity to do that again, especially with the support of Georgia, our staff member, who has been invaluable, especially during comparisons to last year when we didn't have a staff member, and it really does make a huge amount of difference. Obviously, more recently, and some of you may remember, we were at conference, which was busy and fantastic, as we ran a fringe session with some Young Green councillors about diversity, alongside some of the Green Party Liberation groups. And we also ran our Young Green session, which is always well attended and always really fun. And a huge thanks to Miranda and Lou for executing that session while me and Jane ran around conference like slightly headless chickens, and as well as the stall at conference as well. There are other things on my report which you're welcome to read in full detail, and I'll take so many questions on if you have them. But other things I've been up to include attending GPEX, as I am meant to be doing at the minute, chairing, writing agendas for and minuting meetings with the executive committee where necessary. And those are the key things, I think, although I'm sure I've missed something. And again, apologies for the rushed nature of my update on my report, but I hope that's clear. Please ask me all of your questions. I can't wait. Thanks.
Thank you, Kelsey. Let's go straight on to our other co-chair, Jane.
Thanks, Josh. So first of all, I'm just going to apologize if my report is in any way incoherent. I had COVID when I wrote it, so I don't really remember what I wrote in it. But I hope it's somewhat understandable. Kelsey's already talked about a lot of the stuff that we've been doing, but obviously over the last 3 months, it's mainly been supporting our fantastic new executive as they've kind of stepped into their roles, leading their induction. So I led a number of sessions in our induction period, working with Georgia as our staff member as well, particularly on kind of like safeguarding and GDPR, which is an area that we are trying to kind of improve training on for our exec members. I've also been kind of doing less admin than I was doing last year, which I'm finding very enjoyable, as much as I enjoy answering emails. It's great to have Georgia around, and also been kind of supporting Georgia in her role, and kind of directing her in things that we need support with and that we can get her to do rather than me doing it all, which is amazing. One of the things that I've realized that I entirely left off my report was conference, so I apologize for that. So I think Kelsey's already kind of summarized most of our activity there. We obviously did our Young Green speech, we ran our stall. Thank you to all of the exec members that helped and to everybody that came and visited as well. We hope you like the stickers. And we also did some video recordings for the main party, as well as running our session and our fringe as well, which was a great fun. The big key standout thing I think for me from the last 3 months has been working on the freshers packs with Jamie and with Kelsey and with Georgia as well, and we're really grateful to the main party for supporting us on this as well. So hopefully you've seen our like fantastic postcards and stickers and posters as well that we sent out to over 35 groups across England and Wales. They seem to have gone down really, really well. I really like them, at least. They're stuck up on my wall right now, which brings me joy every time I see them. So that's been kind of the big standout project for me, at least, other than welcoming the new exec members. Is that my 2 minutes up, Josh?
It's a pretty good timing. I think it's a good place to wrap up. Thanks, Jane. And we'll go to the treasurer now and then take questions for those 3 people at the same time. Take it away, Ash.
Thank you. So yeah, just sort of echoing what I've just dropped my phone. Jane and Kelsey have said it's been really amazing working with the new exec committee. Everyone's really lovely, everyone's really amazing, and it's just really nice to be part of a brilliant group. The sort of main things I've been working on are sort of tying up loose ends from last year to start with. The exec lost the treasurer last year, sort of halfway through the year. So there were lots of bits that were sort of started but not entirely finished. Most importantly, getting a bank card. All the paperwork for that's filled out. I'm just waiting for an email from Fiona to say you can come to London to pick your bank card up. And yeah, I've got sort of days off work planned, so I've got room to go and pick that up as soon as it's ready. And a card machine as well. We've got one of those that we can keep instead of having to go to finance every time we want to take a payment, which is a lot more helpful. The strategy weekend I attended as well and worked with the committee on our campaigns for the year. So myself and Georgia have been in contact with finance as well to try and get our PayPal account sorted, because that's a bit of a difficult situation at the moment. And it's not entirely resolved yet, but it's ongoing work that I'm sort of trying to keep pushing the main party to help with. So that's ongoing. Coming up tomorrow in our exec meeting, I'm
15 seconds.
Bringing forward some potential merch for the Young Greens. Yeah, and the budget, which is coming up soon.
Great. There's the alarm going off. Thanks, Ash. Okay, so there have been a small number of pre-submitted questions for the co-chairs. Currently none for the treasurer, but if anybody has some, please ask. We don't want anybody getting away without any accountability. All right, first up, one for the co-chairs. How many members of staff in admin does the Young Greens have? Hand up first. Go on, Kelsey.
Yeah, we have one. She is fantastic. We're so glad to have her on board. Her name is Georgia. She's here. I don't know how else to answer that one, and is like incredibly like so amazing to be supporting us, and definitely so well needed. I'm comparing with my term with Jane last year, and I think we both agree Georgia has been a fantastic addition to our team and so invaluable. So a massive thanks to her. But the answer to the question is one.
Thanks, Kelsey. Another question, which...
Can I add something?
I'm sorry, yes, go on.
I was just going to add that we have one staff member. She works 3 days a week. So it's not like a full-time staff member. She works the hours of 3 days a week. And then we work out those hours because sometimes they will be in the evenings. For example, when we have exec meetings, Georgia comes along and minutes for those. So she works the hours of 3 days a week, which I cannot do the math for. It's something like 22 hours or something like that. So yeah, it's a part-time role, not a full-time role, just to clarify. In terms 21 hours. Thank you, Georgia. I'm so glad you know that. I should know that as well. Just to clarify on that one for everybody.
Great. Thanks, Jane. Next question, which does not specify who it's for. I will ask you, and if you don't feel it falls into your remit, then feel free to pass on to somebody else or not answer the question. The question is, I sent an email on the 14th of August with an urgent request to help a local party with a diversity issue, and I never heard back. So what is the normal reply time? And if you don't know what that's referring to, then ignore, but Jane, you have your hand up.
I know what email this is referring to. Mainly because I looked it up, which I maybe shouldn't have done, but I did. So yes, we get lots of emails. We don't always respond to all of them. We don't have a particular turnaround time for responding to emails. It will depend on what your email is about. We have a lot of local parties that get in touch with us who want to have young people engaged, but don't necessarily have the infrastructure to support them. And therefore we may not respond to those types of requests because we don't feel that a local party is able to support them. For example, we have had requests for young people in particular areas because a local party wants a social media officer, and they think that that's something that a young person can take up. And therefore we have not referred anybody because young people provide so much more value than just doing social media. And therefore we don't feel that it's appropriate to recommend to a young person or a student that they get involved in a local party where they're only seen to kind of bring one particular area of value. Also, local parties can go out and engage and involve with their local young people as well. We're not the only people that do that. And we don't have young people that we can pick out from literally like every area across the country. Quite often if people get in touch asking for young people in a particular area and we don't have any, we're not necessarily going to go and search them out in kind of any sort of way. That's kind of something that we would expect a local party to do in terms of engaging with their members in their areas, whether they're young people or not. I think I went off on a bit of a tangent, but I think that mainly answers the question.
Thank you. Kelsey, hand up as well.
Yeah, just to add, I echo absolutely all of that, but also just to add that we also are not oblivious to the fact that it can be frustrating. I think anyone who's like been in the Green Party for longer than about 2 minutes knows that the frustration of non-answered emails is a universal experience. And so like agree with absolutely everything as Jane has said, and I would echo all of that, but also just to say that we do acknowledge that unanswered emails are a frustration, but ultimately we still are a volunteer-led group and we're doing our best. So yeah, just to acknowledge that frustration.
Okay, next question, this final one pre-submitted for the co-chairs. What percentage of your efforts do you believe should be focused on students versus non-students? Kelsey and Jane's hand up straight away. I didn't see who went first, so we'll start with Jane because Kelsey just spoke.
I don't think it should be broken down by a particular percentage. I think we should be focusing on the things that are impacting our membership at that particular time and where we feel it's that we are able to and it is appropriate to talk about them. So like I wouldn't break it down as in like we speak 60% of the time about students and 40% of the time about young people in general. Like I would never break it down like that because I just don't think that that's possible. And there's also lots of issues that cut across young people and students. So for example, if you're thinking about housing and the horrificness of renting, that's something that impacts young people, but it also impacts students, albeit in slightly different ways. So I've never split it that way. I also think that we have the fantastic Green Students Committee who now have 2 co-conveners, which is super exciting because we co-opted the second one, and therefore like we are able to kind of have the Green Students Committee there speaking about that type of stuff, but that doesn't mean that like the young Greens shouldn't also be speaking about that type of stuff, because it is important that we are representing all of those members. And I will openly admit that sometimes we probably focus too much on students and should probably do more on young people. So happy to take that on board and make sure that we comment more equally on both, because I'm aware that that's something that we do.
Thank you. And back over to Kelsey.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely don't split our time in a percentage way between students and young people. As Jane said, so many of the issues are cross-cutting. However, and I would add to the last thing that Jane said there, which is super important, that sometimes we probably do get the balance wrong. It is something that we've actively considered in this conversation that we've been having. It's really great actually at the strategy day I mentioned, and Jane mentioned in both our reports, when we're talking about the campaigns we're going to focus on this year and kind of work we're delivering, there was a real deliberate kind of attempt to make sure that we weren't just focusing on students, and that we were kind of thinking more broadly about young workers, young people who don't go on to higher education especially. So that is something that we're actively considering. Obviously this quarter is always going to be slightly dominated by students because it's freshers, and so there's not really a way around that, and we're really grateful for the support that we've had from the main party in delivering that, and the work that we've done around that. But my point being, it is something we're considering. If you have ideas, always get in touch, but I think the issues are so cross-cutting so much of the time that it is important that we have young people and students kind of represented, and that we're working on those issues. And as sort of Jane and mine's roles as co-chairs and also as youth and student spokespeople, I think we do that all right, but we could definitely do better as ever.
Thanks, Kelsey. We've got one question for the treasurer submitted right now, and it is, how excited are you for the new bank card?
The answer to that is incredibly. At the moment, if we want to make a payment to someone or a business, anything like that, it has to go via Georgia to finance, and then we get an email which I then have to forward back to finance. It's very backwards is what I'm trying to say. So having a bank card is so amazing. And yeah, I'm really excited to pick it up.
Thank you. And as we speak, we have another question submitted for the treasurer, and it is this: is the Young Greens considered a formal accounting unit of the Green Party of England and Wales?
Yes, I think so. We get a set amount of money from the party every year. It's not sent over as one lump, but we get a set amount every year. And all of that, yeah, has to go through Green Party Finance. We're not our own sort of separate individual entity. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, everything sort of does go through the Green Party. Yeah.
Thank you, Ash. Final call for questions. For people watching on YouTube, as millions of you will be, in the chat we have a comment saying, yes, we are an official accounting unit of Green Party of England and Wales. Kelsey has their hand up again.
This isn't a question, so if there's any more questions, then please ask them. I just wanted to come up. Is there no more questions for us?
There are no more questions for you now. So if you and Jane need to speed off, then
that was what I wanted to say. I wanted to
yes.
apologise for the fact that me and Jane are going to have to speed off back to GPEX. And I just wanted to kind of formally say that we're sorry that we can't stay. for the rest of the session, but also that the work that the rest of the Young Greens Committee have been doing has been fantastic, and we're really proud of that. And in no way is our disappearing back to GPEX a reflection on that. We'd much rather stay and listen to the fantastic things that are happening here. Unfortunately, we can't do that.
Okay, thanks, Kelsey. Thanks, Jane. Enjoy GPEX. I'm sure it's super fun. See you around. All right. Next up, we'll go to the portfolio officers. But before that, co-chairs are gone. Now the fun can start. Let's do it. Okay, according to the lineup in the Constitution, first up for the portfolio officers, if they're here, will be the Green Students co-convener. And now we will have two of these, but only one of them has been in the role since the start of their term. And so we only have one report. So Jamie, if you're here, the floor is yours, the virtual floor. Go on.
Sweet, okay. So yeah, it's been really fun being part of the committee, but I've only got 2 minutes, so I'll get straight into it. So the main thing I've done so far is help organise the Freshers Pack, the Freshers Packs for Freshers First universities. So this involved working with Jane, Kelsey and Orla from the committee to come up with messaging, design plans and costings. But as Kelsey and Jane did, I'd like to recognise how brilliant Georgia was also with helping with these things. So yeah, we created packs which had posters, postcards and stickers in. I think it went down really well. Beyond this, I also personally wrote a how to run a freshers stand guide, which went on the pack too, which was designed to help people who perhaps hadn't run a stall before. Yeah, and I'd also like to thank the previous committee because I kind of used their how-to guides and adapted them. So thank you to the people who had done that before me as well, because I didn't have to go from scratch. So yeah, when I wrote my report, we hadn't co-opted the other co-convener, but that has happened now. So we have another co-convener. We did the interviews for that. Jane kind of led on that, but I was there for all the interviews and helped decide that amongst with the rest of the committee as well. So I'm meeting with the other co-convener on Thursday, and we're going to have a meeting about kind of plans for the year and whatever. And as I put in my report, I've also written kind of a draft out for a co-option for the rest of the committee, the Green Students Committee. So I'm going to be going through that with Lisa on Thursday to check that she's all happy with it, doesn't want to make any changes. And once we've gone through that, that's another thing that we'll be doing, which will be co-opting the rest of the committee. It's been a little bit lonely all on my own, but it's exciting that that's all sorted now. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, good timing. You had 10 seconds.
Sweet.
Thanks, Jamie. We'll do questions for the portfolio officers all together once they've all gone. So we'll move on to the elections officers, which is a job share. So if either of Frank or Josiah are here, you can use the 2 minutes as you please. Off you go.
Hey, yeah, so I'll try and get through this quickly. Thanks for being entrusted with this role. It's really important. We've spent our time so far doing quite a lot of prepping and strategizing and organizing, and that's been really helpful. And yeah, it's been good. So after our election, we made sure that we met and had some chats with the previous elections officer, Darren. We've thought about that, and we've thought about what we can learn from the previous year. We've built up a bit of a strategy. I'll just walk through the kind of the 3 areas that we're thinking about, what we're thinking about doing, and where we're going to go with those going forward, what we've done so far. So thinking about supporting Young Green candidates this year as a specific kind of new thing. The plans for that are to put in place some regular Zoom calls, which the candidates will be able to drop into. They'll be able to maybe hear from people who've been in the position before. They'll be able to ask questions. There's a little bit more detail about that in the report. We've got a few other bits that we're thinking about doing too. Now that candidates have largely been selected, we'll start moving into that. Frank is currently in Dubai. So once Frank's back from Dubai, we'll be hitting the ground. We'll also be working on the kind of standard elections activity coming up to May. And a major part of that will be identifying priority candidates. And again, now that selection has occurred, in all cases, pretty much, we'll be moving on to getting that sorted and getting that provision in place too. And we've also got some plans in terms of supporting activists too. We believe quite hard that it's a really important part that we empower the Young Green activists to be able to bring about the change they are so vital in bringing about as kind of, I'm sorry, I'm really bad at talking in public, as agents within elections. And so we're thinking about how we can understand the barriers that are in place to them getting involved. We're in the early stages of putting together a survey that we'll send out to the membership of the Young Greens to try and understand some of the problems that are there. And hopefully we can bring that into some kind of training program. And besides that, we've been involved in exec meetings. Is that time?
It's been 2 minutes, but yeah, thanks, Josiah. And if you have anything yet to add, we can do that in the questions. Next up, Orla, are you here? Orla is Digital Comms Officer.
Hello, I'm here.
Off you go.
Perfect. So evening, everyone. I just want to start by echoing the sentiment of the other committee members and saying how grateful I am to have been elected into this role. I'll keep this short, but do ask any questions when it comes to it. So I began the term talking strategy with Jane and Kelsey following the exec committee strategy day. We wrote up a new Young Greens comms strategy, which included things like a new sign-off procedure and a kind of plan to turn our social media towards trends like short form videos. A campaign that I've recently worked on is the Freshers campaign, as Jamie and Kelsey and Jane talked about. And I really enjoyed reposting lots of content from Freshers Fairs and things. So if there's anybody here who was or anybody watching who's like a group leader from Freshers Fairs, it's been really great to kind of share your content and amplify all the events you're running. And I look forward to doing more of that. We've also put out comms in support of various industrial actions, which is something the Young Greens will always support. And in the future, I look forward to working on elections and our upcoming campaigns. So if you need to get in touch with me about anything, email or DM or whatever, and I'll be there. Thank you.
Thanks, Orla. Next up, we'll go to the press officer. So Gab, are you here?
Hello, everyone. Please bear with me a bit. I'm having a very bad chronic fatigue flare up this week. So if I'm slow or if I'm mumbling, please let me know. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so just echoing everybody's sentiment, it's been really fantastic working with everybody, and the depth of knowledge and enthusiasm that everybody has is really inspiring and makes me proud to be a Green, especially given the wider context of things going on at the moment, which we won't talk about. So yeah, since I've started, been sort of like settling into the role, thinking about different strategies and trying to be sort of proactive as well as reactive. So reactively, we've sent out press releases regarding the AQA strikes and asking Young Greens to support the striking workers there. And we've also got a press release going out on the 27th of October with regards to the greenwashing conference that the executive committee jointly decided that the co-chairs weren't going to attend. Also made contact with kind of some of the key contacts in the sort of green scope. So Bright Green and Green World, for example, touch base with their new editor at Green World. And I've got some articles underway. So for example, there'll be an article on disability going out from one of the exec members, and an article on youth homelessness going out from one of the exec members. And we'll be writing a letter in response to the Scottish Greens decision to suspend ties with us also. And then sort of more exciting things, so a TV opportunity. So I've passed that along to some of the members of the group who hopefully will be represented. Not sure what's happened with that, but hopefully. And yes, also started drafting a how to survive in the press, sort of from a wellbeing perspective, and also sort of what to do and what not to do.
10 seconds.
Went to the strategy meeting in Birmingham, represented the Young Greens at the campaign school. So that's it.
Thank you. We'll move swiftly on to our campaigns officer. So Phil, are ye here? I think Phil was here earlier, but not right now. So if Phil returns, then he'll be able to read his out. But for now, I will read Phil's report out for up to 2 minutes. If another DAC member can time for 2 minutes and then let me know once I read 2 minutes, that would be great. Thank you. So I'm Phil Davis. I'm the campaigns officer. And as we speak, he is entering the waiting room. So scrap that. In he comes. Phil, if you can hear us, it is your turn. As we speak, I was about to imitate you, but I think you'd probably do a better impression of yourself than me. So if your mic is working, then please go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Sorry if that was me then. My internet just cut out, so I only just come back into the meeting. Yeah, so no one was elected to this role last year, so it's somewhat of like a free shot to make it the way I want it. But it also means I didn't have something to learn off, obviously. So obviously we had a handover period to start off with, which we go into initial training, and then jointly as a committee, we decided to focus on 3 main campaigning areas. These years, they are as follows: political reform, educational reform, and cost of living. There's also a lot of other stuff within these 3 areas, but I don't really have the time to go into that in detail, but feel free to ask me questions about them more later on. Since being elected, I've started researching and trying to engage with different organisations that can be helpful to us within these campaigning activities. Other than that, I've been busy, been at the recent conference. Obviously, the Fringe event was also about campaigning, and it was really useful talking to people on these issues. So that was very useful to me. Other than that, I've been very busy with other things in the Green Party, sorry. So I haven't had as much time as I'd have liked on campaigning issues. Attended campaign school, which was good fun. I've also been working as a local ERO in my party to help out with general election selection, which is going through at the moment. So now I have a bit more time in the coming months. We have some exciting plans for campaigning related events, so keep your eyes peeled for them. And other than that, yeah, just wanted to thank DAC and the executive committee for all their hard work. It's been a fun initial few months, and sorry if that was all a bit rushed. I was trying to sort out my internet at the same time as well, which is a pretty common problem at the moment. One other thing I wanted to include in this is I thought it was quite useful being the only Welsh person on this committee. This is a more general point that helps out with some general things which I know within Wales Green Party gets a bit annoyed that are left out sometimes in GPEW communication. So I thought that was useful on that point. And other than that, yeah, just thank you, and fire away with any questions you have for me later on. Cheers.
Thanks, Phil. Hopefully your Wi-Fi is staying strong. Now, next up will be our events officers. I don't think either of them are currently in the call, and I'm just trying to locate the events officers report in the document, though I don't think it is currently in there. In which case, it has been submitted. It is. Maybe I've got an out-of-date document.
I can read it out if you would like.
Yes, I can't find it right now for some reason. That would be great. Thanks.
So thanks to Young Green members for trusting us with this important role, and to the Executive Committee for encouraging and supporting us as we develop and grow together. We look forward to putting on accessible and unforgettable events that help us to bond and flourish as eco-socialists, people and politicians. What follows is a summary of our work so far. Green Party Conference 2022. We liaised with the LGBTIQA+ Greens and the Young Greens Executive Committee to plan and deliver a Saturday night karaoke and drag social at the Manhattan Club during the Green Party Autumn Conference 2022 in Harrogate. While turnout was a little smaller than imagined, the night was a success and much fun was had. The venue appeared to meet accessibility requirements, and we received positive feedback from venue staff about our conduct. The Young Greens contributed £200 for venue hire, of which £100 is expected back in the form of a deposit. The LGBTIQA+ Greens indicated that they are willing to give £50 to the Young Greens, half of the price of hiring the venue minus deposit, in contribution to the cost of the social. We worked alongside Kelsey Trevor and Jane Bastin to plan and deliver the Young Greens session at conference. Despite being somewhat last minute, this pulled together well, and the attendees generated lots of good ideas towards our 3 campaign focused areas of political reform, cost of living, and education. Finally, we contributed to communications around various facets of conference. We helped to plan communications around the Young Greens Fringe meeting, session, and social. We also spoke to the executive committee about the possibility of helping Young Greens looking to attend conference with accommodation, given the challenges of finding an affordable stay in Harrogate. Ultimately, some Airbnb shares evolved with other Young Greens and members of the Bristol Green Party. Winter General Meeting. We have started work planning the Young Greens Winter General Meeting, set to take place 10th to 11th of December 2022, with 26th to 27th of November as a backup. We created a short list of locations in consultation with the Executive Committee and decided to host the meeting in Wales, with Newport as our first choice city. We worked together with Georgia Nelson to establish a list of venue requirements and search for and contact appropriate venues, using Philip Davies' local expertise as a guide. One venue in Newport met our requirements, but it was sadly unavailable at the dates we required it. As such,
10 seconds.
In Cardiff, with Swansea as our new backup plan if this falls through.
Thanks, Ollie. I have now found the report. It wasn't designated as a subheading, but no worries. And if you want to read the rest of the report, then it is available on Green Spaces, our favorite website, of course. Next up, International Officer Benjamin.
Hello, everyone. Like everyone who's spoken before, I'd like to thank everyone who voted for me, and also everyone who I've been so lucky to work with. It's been an amazing experience to work with so many nice people, and I was really happy to meet a lot of you in person at the conference. And I'd also like to thank Raphael Hill, my predecessor, who was very kind to very quickly induct me into my role. Had a long conversation with them about like FIEG and the international collaborations I would be involved in. So that was very helpful. Which leads me on to the majority of my work so far has been as a prep team member for the upcoming FIEG Lab, which is tied with, so for those who don't know, FIEG is Federation of Young European Greens, are the Europe-wide Young Green movement. And I have been involved in setting up a conference in Brussels with them. This is, so the way I saw my role is both to strengthen ties to our international partners, and secondly, to get more Young Greens in England and Wales involved in international collaborations. So that's part of strengthening those ties. That has taken up quite a lot of time, and it will happen in the middle of November. I also assisted Benedetta Scuderi, the co-leader of the FIEG with her Italian campaign in London. And yeah, I don't have time to talk about the twinning project, but basically, because of this heavy workload, I've had chats with Raphael Hill, Kelsey Trevor, and members of FIEG about this project that I promised in.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Campaign.
Yep, sorry.
That's okay.
That's great. And again, if you want to ask any more questions, then we can do that in the questions. Next up, Equality and Diversity Officer, Dylan Lewis-Cresser.
Hello, everyone. Dylan Lewis-Cresser, Sheffield Green Party. Sounds like conference now. Apologies if I sound like a broken record here, but as everyone else has said, I'd like to thank the members of the executive committee for being so welcoming and so kind in this new term, and especially the members who have been re-elected for helping us with onboarding as a group. I really appreciate that. And apologies if I speak about a different things that cross over with my role as Secretary of LGBTIQA+ Greens. I've tried to separate this out in my report, but may not have been entirely successful. So since my election in July, I attended meetings regularly. I've spoken on items. I put items on the agenda, particularly a motion about affiliating with Enough is Enough, which we did not end up doing, but has now been passed by Green Party Conference. And I worked with our events officers for the joint Young Greens and LGBTIQA+ Greens social in Harrogate, which we've received very positive feedback for from the venue and from members. I have also recently conducted interviews along with another EC member, Lucy, as the LGBTIQA+ Liberation Officer for the Trans Liberation Officer role, which will be voted on Tuesday's executive meeting, so tomorrow, and we do have a preferred candidate. And I look forward to inviting them onto the executive committee. I've also attempted to act as a liaison between other liberation and special interest groups, along with the Young Greens. A lot of that work has been with the LGBTIQA+ Greens, simply because of the campaigns that we're getting involved in and my dual role. So I'll be looking to expand that in the next quarter, especially with groups like Jewish Greens, to do some more work on that. I'm hoping that
10 seconds.
Autumn conference was a success, and I want to repeat that for spring conference. And I invited liberation officers to E&D committee as a Young Greens representative. Thank you.
Thanks, Dylan. We have two more officers before we do questions. Next up is Activist Training and Political Education Officer Patrick. If you're here, you have 2 minutes. And
there we go. Hi, everyone. Thanks very much. Sorry for my lighting situation. I'm going to be a broken record again and just say it's been an absolute pleasure to get to know and work with all the members of the committee, and especially at conference. It was a complete joy to get to meet a lot of people I hadn't before, reconnect with some old friends, and just see the power of Young Greens throughout the whole party. In terms of my portfolio, I've been working with some of the other committee members on organising our annual 30 Under 30 programme. We've got a full exec meeting tomorrow where I'll be bringing draft proposals for approval. I'm really excited to be able to contribute to such a hallmark event of the entire Green Party. And just huge thanks to everyone else who's been working on this, particularly Jane, who's been an absolute rock, and to Georgia, who we will shortly be landing with an ungodly amount of admin to do for us. Otherwise, I'm in the early days of discussion to boost Young Green engagement with internal GPEW processes, as particularly internal elections, along with Philip Davies. This was a sort of manifesto commitment for me, so I'm really excited to be working on that priority. And yeah, just in general, really happy to be working on the exec in whatever capacity I can. Happy to take any questions.
thanks, Patrick. Speedy. We've got one more officer before questions, and that's under 18s officer Finn. If you're here, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to start by echoing all the sentiments, saying it's great to be part of the committee, the Young Greens committees, and it's generally full of amazing people. When I was elected under 18s officer, the first thing that me and the chair of the under 18 Young Greens did was to start work on a social media video for GCSE exam results day. This video set out the Green Party's position on exams and wished people the very best of luck for the future. This went out on the Young Greens social media and I was very pleased with the response that it got on Twitter and Instagram. And I've also been doing ongoing work doing the under 18 Young Greens Twitter account, whilst the chair of the under 18 group has been focusing on the Instagram account. I attended the strategy day in Birmingham and we came up with some great ideas for campaigns, including Vote to 16 as part of our electoral reform campaign. And I also contributed to conversations on education reform at the strategy day. And the other thing, which isn't in my report, but is because it started afterwards, is that the under 18 Young Greens are starting to look at co-opting another member of our committee. So we've just started the very first organising that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing my work with the Young Greens Executive Committee and the Under 18s Chair, David, who's been an amazing person to work with. We've had a brilliant start and I can't wait to carry on.
Thank you, Finn. Now, before we go to the questions, I'm just going to put a link into the chat that is for the email addresses for all the members of the Young Greens exec. So if anybody isn't here and you want to ask them a question, take it away. Now, I've got some questions pre-submitted, some questions submitted on the chat. So I'm going to have to scroll up and try and find some of them. And then there's another one I'm reading right now. Okay, we'll try and go in order. First one for elections officer, and there's quite a few, so try and keep these pretty short. Very simply, the question is, do you think the Green Party is ready for a snap general election?
We've had some discussions about how this this could play out, and we are having a lot more of those discussions quite imminently. So I think I'm satisfied that there is thought going on about that, how that could be put together. I would say yes. I don't think it's something that I could provide detail on right now, but I would give an answer that we're in an all right position, I think. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Question for Patrick. Are there any ideas currently for the annual political education series early next year?
I'll be honest, most of my attention right now is preoccupied with 30 under 30. I think there's a certain amount of synergy there, because if we have events which work really well for 30 under 30, we want to try and repeat them with the political education series. As of yet, I'm not really able to give you a secure answer on that beyond any musings I've had, and I have had some sort of early thoughts about it, but nothing concrete as of yet.
Thanks, Patrick. Question for Jamie as Green Students co-convener. What do you think about the revival of Labour students? Do you think it's a threat to the Green Students Committee?
I wouldn't say a threat. I like being in a party that actually respects its Young Greens, as opposed to Labour, which shuts down their Young Greens Twitter accounts. No, I mean, to be honest with you, this might be controversial. I'd like to see a world where, you know, Young Labour and Young Green can work together on some joint activities. I don't think they have to be a threat. I think that on places we agree, we can work together. I think young left-wing people have to you know, stick together and like fight the good fight kind of thing. So no, I don't see it as a threat, but I'm definitely happy that I'm a Young Green and not part of Young Labour. Hope that kind of answers the question.
Thanks, Jamie. Question for Benjamin as international officer. Could you briefly explain some detail about the Twinning project?
Yeah, so this is an idea I had like when I was running for the position about, because like the idea is that there is a very limited amount of places going to, for instance, the Field Lab. So I wanted more Young Greens to have the opportunity to communicate with international people elsewhere. So I wanted to set up digital communication pathways that could be the basis for just socials, for education, and for like local parties to be twinned with other local parties across the world. The idea has progressed a little bit. I had a very good chat with Kelsey a few weeks ago about maybe running a trial event like in the new year, like where we invite people and maybe not focus too much on like hone in on local parties, but just see if there is a general interest in it, and invite people, international people as well, and then kind of use that as a ramp to launch it further. I hope that answers your question, but if not, you feel free to email me.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Ola, digital comms, we actually have two questions for you. I'll ask them both at the same time so we can be quick and answer them as long or as short as you like. First question is, do we have any exciting TikTok videos coming up? And second is, how do we overcome the Twitter ceiling, i.e. expanding more on Instagram and Facebook?
Okay, so do we have TikTok ideas coming up? I actually had a meeting with Kelsey and Jane yesterday, and there were some TikTok ideas floated. So yeah, watch this space. I'm I'm not a TikTok user personally, so I struggle with the market research. So if anybody is a TikTok user and sees anything that you reckon the Young Greens could do, you gotta send them over to me. And expanding on, was it Instagram and Facebook, the second question they were asking?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so expanding on Instagram is something we're working on at the moment. Using Instagram Reels is a really good way to like expand that feeds into the TikTok thing, because you can like obviously share the same videos on both, and Reels can go viral quite quickly. We got a lot of views on our reel about the Freshers Packs. Obviously using Instagram more. We were discussing yesterday about getting more exec members to do like little videos on Instagram stories and stuff, just to make it more personable. And Facebook is something that I think is less of a platform for us now. We kind of more use it to like promote events and kind of repost stuff from Instagram, but I don't think it's necessarily something we're looking to actively grow, just because it's not necessarily where young people are at the moment. And the people we have on there are more like maybe older audience who just want to kind of track what we're doing and not necessarily be actively engaged. I hope that answered both questions.
Thanks, Orla. Another question for Patrick. This is a really quick one. Do you think the name of 30 Under 30 should be updated, given that the Young Greens membership is officially open to students who may be aged over 30 years old?
That's a good point. I haven't actually thought of that at all. That's a good point. Thanks for whoever submitted that. My instinct is to say no, because we are looking, I think the point of the 30 Under 30 program is to nurture and uplift young people's voices specifically. Obviously, there are old people who are older than 30 within the Young Greens who are in full-time education, but there are more opportunities for them. And 30 Under 30 works, one of the big purposes of it is to work as a counterweight to the default assumption that it's older people who get involved with politics. So I think 30 Under 30's target audience is for people under 30, and I think the name is apt as a result.
Thanks, Patrick. Question for Dylan as END officer. How do you feel about the Young Greens working relationship with LGBTIQA plus Greens, and how do you replicate such bonds with other groups in the party?
Yeah, thank you to whoever asked that question. I'm quite positive about the working relationship we have with the LGBTIQA plus Greens. We had our joint social together, which was very successful. We have members that overlap a lot of groups. So I'd say in terms of the Young Greens being the closest, like in terms of like campaigns so far with another group, I would say it's the LGBTIQA plus Greens. Of course, we need to branch that out because there are so many other special interest groups that would like Young Green support, and we need to be supporting them. For instance, Jewish Greens, Greens of Colour. I think a lot of that is reaching out to members who may be in Greens of Colour, for instance, who are also Young Greens, to try and foster those personal connections, because a lot of time that is what develops a good working relationship, is when you have those personal connections. So finding those people who'd be willing to act as a go-between and who'd be willing to do that, but also just events and having us work with them. So I'd be really interested and hoping to reach out to Greens of Colour and Jewish Greens, among others, to foster.
Thank you, Dylan. Final question for the portfolio officers. And if you haven't been asked a question, then I guess lucky you, or I'm sorry, depending on whether you wanted to be asked one. This question is for Finn, and it is as follows. As an elected member of the executive committee, you represent the organization and have some collective responsibility for its reputation. How do you think this interacts with your use of personal social media accounts? And what steps do you or can you take to ensure that you uphold the reputation of, and on the flip side, that you limit the reputational risk to the Young Greens? If you'd like me to repeat the question, then let me know.
I think it's an interesting question. I think that obviously, as an elected representative of the Young Greens, obviously there is an element of collective responsibility, but it is also it is a personal social media account. It's not necessarily representative of the entire Young Greens, and I think generally being careful not to be really rude on social media is I don't know specifically what to say to that specific question. So if there's a specific concern that you have, feel free to email me.
Thank you,
Not
Finn. Thank you, Finn. So we'll now move on to the liberation officers. And again, if you have any questions for any of these officers, then message me or another member of DAC. First up, Lucy Pegg, LGBTIQA plus officer. If you're here, then you have 2 minutes.
Hi, sorry, I was not expecting to be first. Yeah, since being elected, my work as LGBTIQA plus officer has largely focused on trying to get the Young Greens LGBTIQA plus group up and running, with the help of Ollie, who's here, and David, who were elected at the AGM, but those were the only people elected at the AGM, and I end up being co-opted as the officer, but it's quite a small group of people, so we needed to get a bigger committee. So all of us have been working on that, and it's really great. We've now got 2 co-chairs and another non-portfolio officer, and looking forward to getting that all up and running. So yeah, that's been a big achievement, I think, since being elected into this role. I've also worked with Orla on some comms for Bi-Visibility Week. I was slightly disrupted by the Queen dying and her funeral being in Bi-Visibility Week. Not the best timing. But that was really good to do, and I'd like to do more comms and work with Orla more on some social media stuff in the future. More broadly, I've obviously just been part of the general activities of the exec. I attended the strategy day in Birmingham, like the rest of us did. Fed into the campaigns and ideas that we're thinking about for the future. I've also worked with Dylan on the co-option process for the trans young green officer role. We've now conducted all the interviews for that, and hopefully be able to take that to the next stage of those co-options. But it's been really great being involved in that process and getting lots of really great candidates coming forward for the role. I think that's all I have to say, really.
Thanks, Lucy. Next up, we'll go to Jack Blomfield, who is disability officer.
Hello, yes. I will jump onto the bandwagon and say thank you to everyone who voted for me. And also it's been great working with everyone on the committee so far. It's been really productive, and I can't wait to see what we get up to. So what I've got up to so far since being elected, so in preparation for the winter general meeting, I've been able to strive for the best possible accessibility at the meeting, so that whenever we have people wanting to attend our events, that we have the opportunities for them to have everything available to them. So I've brought up the idea of possibly adding a box on the sign up sheets, so that we can find out whether or not we need to prepare for people who read Braille, so that there is the things available for them at the time. I was able to attend the strategy day in Birmingham. Also, I sat in on one of the E&D meetings with Dylan, and
10 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, that less said about that is probably better, but yeah, there's been pretty busy. Sorry.
Thank you, Jack. Our next officer will be Natalia, women's officer.
Hello, everyone. So my disability is flaring up quite a bit today, so sorry if I'm a little bit all over the place. It's been great to be on a committee with so many wonderful people. Unfortunately, there wasn't a women's officer last year, so there isn't really any work for me to build on, but it does mean I've kind of got free rein to do what I want in the role. One thing I've been doing is I've been working on holding Green Party women to account. So, for example, there was an open letter sent to the committee when they sent a rather questionable email about conference. So I was helping draft that and share it around. And we did manage to get over 100 signatures from women and non-binary members in the party, which is pretty cool. the next thing I've been doing is I helped write an emergency motion on solidarity with women in Iran, which I was the lead proposer of to conference. Unfortunately, it wasn't heard because there wasn't time, but the next thing I'll be working on is a statement of solidarity. So I am working on that with a few other women in the party. Hopefully we're going to get a lot of signatures on that as well, which would be pretty cool. But yeah, that's basically it, to be honest. Sorry, it's quite short. But yeah, next thing I'll be focusing on as well is getting co-options for the Young Green Women Committee, which sadly isn't very active. We unfortunately only have 2 committee members at the moment, so that's going to be my next focus. But yeah, that's me done.
Thanks, Natalia. Now, the other liberation officers are trans officer, people of color, and women of color officers. Those roles are currently vacant, although watch this space in terms of co-options. So there are no reports for those roles, and that means we will move straight to questions. If there are any questions, I have to say there have been no pre-submitted questions for these roles, but if anybody has one they would like to ask now, just do it. Just wait a minute or so for the chat. Okay, it's not looking like there are any questions. If any are submitted afterwards, then we can come back to them. But in the meantime, we can move on to Democracy and Accountability Committee. As my report is first, I'm going to ask if another member of DAC would be happy to take over as chair for the next 2 or 3 minutes, so it's not totally corrupt. If anybody would be happy to, that would be very helpful. But I will start reading my report and one of you tell me if and when my 2 minutes is up. So I was voted in as chair of DAC in our first meeting back in July. And since then I've attended, chaired all of our meetings and attended most EC meetings, though I haven't been able to attend all of them. In our time, DAC have made 4 rulings up, and they are all uploaded on the new record of structural procedures, ROSPs, which was only created as a document about a year ago at a previous convention. We also, as a committee, now have a live attendance tracker for EC and DAC members, just to make sure we're on top of who has attended which meetings, etc. And so if it comes to initiating votes of no confidence or something like that, it's just easier to register. Other things we've done a co-option process for our DAC, final DAC member. Ollie and I interviewed the candidates and we ended up co-opting Matt Rogan. So congratulations, Matt. We've also, one of the things I spoke about in the elections in the summer was about helping local and regional Young Greens groups run their own elections for committees if they'd like to, on the new Green Vote platform, which we were guinea pigs for in the summer for our elections. It's kind of happening very slowly on a case-by-case basis, although at the moment that website is not yet being transferred to the Green Party's, I don't know what the website, the Green Party of England and Wales server. Once that happens, it'll be much easier, and then we can create official elections groups for different Young Greens groups if they would like them. Finally, other than planning for this accountability session, one of the other things I said I'd like to do is create a closer relationship with Standing Orders Committee. I think that's my time.
15 seconds, sorry.
Okay, 15 seconds. I haven't managed to attend any new SOC meetings yet, SOC is Standing Orders Committee, but Ollie and Seb have attended some meetings, and thank you for them to doing that. Hopefully we can keep this relationship going, and I'm done. Thanks for timing me, Ollie. I also realized we need to do the technical committee report, which I will also do now, if that's okay. So if we can get another 2 minutes. This is just a report of everything DSE has officially done. And you can see more detail about these rulings and documents on Green Spaces. I'll put a link in the chat in a moment. So since convention, DAC has made 4 rulings, co-opted a new member, made minor textual amendments to the ruling documents, initiated the complaints and disputes application process, and carried out an election for safeguarding officers. I'm not going to read these 4 rulings because they're quite long, but I'll read out the titles of each of them. So we made one ruling in August on whether absences in official EC meetings applied to job shares, whether both members had to be at a meeting or whether one of them could be a meeting, etc. In summary, our conclusion was that it is in the essence of job shares for different members of the job share to compromise and take over different responsibilities within the role. So we ruled that if at least one member of the job share is present at an EC meeting, then that counts as an official attendance. We made another ruling on the handover period. This was in relation to a change which happened at convention relating to a 2-week handover period, which we voted for. And this is essentially relating to a small clause in the standing orders, which we made a minor amendment to, so there was no internal contradiction in the standing orders. We then made a ruling on Young Greens women's name. This was a motion passed at convention, although it was passed as a policy motion rather than as a constitutional amendment. Though because over a 2/3 majority at convention had voted in favor, we ruled that it was sufficient democratic mandate for the constitution to be updated. And so the spelling of Young Greens women has been updated, so an E has replaced the X. The final ruling we have made was a couple of weeks ago. This is a longer one, so if that's the end of time, then I apologize. Okay, thank you. Next up is Ollie. So I will go back to timing you. Ollie, you've got 2 minutes.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find my report. Yeah, I'd just like to start by saying thank you to people that voted for me, and also thank you to the exec and DAC. Like, you are all incredible people, and it is a pleasure to be working with you. So the sort of majority of my work recently in DAC is that I was made chair of the Complaints and Disputes Subcommittee at our first DAC meeting. And so I've been running the application process for that. And we now have a full subcommittee formed, and I ran an induction session last week for our members. So that went pretty smoothly. And yeah, our complaints process is now up and running again with a new subcommittee. Since convention, we've also run a co-option process to co-opt a new member to DAC, as Josh has already said. I assisted with interviewing some of those applicants, and I'm really happy that we now have a full committee, and congratulations to Matt for being the final member of our committee. I think I've attended every DAC meeting so far, and I've tried to contribute to discussion around the various rulings that we've had to make, which Josh has just laid out for us. I've also tried to attend exec meetings, but recently have not been able to attend for various reasons. I also attended the Strategy Day in Birmingham representing DAC. And that was really useful to set out sort of our goals for the year. And that's
10 seconds. Okay, thanks, Ollie. Good timing. Now we'll move on to Seb Cousins. If you're in there still, take it away. You've got 2 minutes.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Yeah. So Seb Cousins, High Street Green Party, pronouns. So I'm very grateful as everyone is to have been elected and to work with such great people across both DAC and the exec. I've tried to attend as many meetings as I can. I missed one meeting in August due to being on holiday in London, which was unfortunate timing. Very nice holiday, actually. I have, in my role, voted on the I voted the wrong way, which is the way I regret. I want to record. And I also have also attended the first SOC meeting we were allowed into, which was very productive. I can't wait, with more time in my hands coming very soon, to do more with DAC than and I can't wait to get more involved. Yeah.
Thank you, Seb.
Thank you.
If anybody had trouble hearing any of it, the audio was mostly good, Seb. Some of it was a little crackly. Feel free to email alldac, that's alldac@younggreens.org.uk if you have any other specific questions. Next up, our final report of the day is going to be George Morris. Final in-person report, I should say. George.
I mean, I'm not going to say too much that's different from the others, to be honest. But yeah, so I was elected to DAC last convention. I've been to 2 of the 3 meetings we've had. I missed the most recent one just because of organizational failures. Given my input on rulings, the one I missed, I just sort of added a bit on Slack. Haven't really felt the need to attend DC meetings. As DAC members, that's not something we need to do. It's generally just the co-chair that needs to do that. Again, as others have already said, we did a co-option process. Wasn't that involved in that, to be honest. I had exam resits at the time, but it's good to see that we had quite a lot of choice through the co-option process as well, which I think is a really good thing compared to previous years. Looking forward to attending an SOC meeting at some time, and looking forward to winter general meeting as well.
Thank you, George. Last up, we have Matt Rogan, who is not here, so I will read out Matt's report. I don't think this one's going to take 2 minutes, but here we go. I would like to start this brief report by saying that I'm very glad to sit on the Democracy and Accountability Committee for the remainder of the 2022-23 term. I look forward to working with fantastic members of DAC, as well as the rest of the Young Greens Executive Committee, to ensure the work of the Young Greens is both democratic and accountable. In the short term, since my co-option to DAC, I've attended meetings and helped with voting on rulings, and I'll continue to do so as per the role requirements. That's Matt's report. That's all of the reports. And we will now go on to questions for DAC. 2 have been submitted. I realize I'm asking these questions, but I will attempt to answer them as well, along with other members of DAC. And if anyone else has other questions, then please submit them now. Okay, first question. Any member of DAC can volunteer to answer this. As we approach the next democracy event in the Young Greens calendar, what do you see as DAC's role in promoting democratic engagement at all stages? And what steps are you taking to ensure as many members are engaged and comfortable with the process as possible? Seb has the hand up, so Seb, take it away.
Yes, thank you. I hope you can hear me. Again, apologies if you cannot. I believe that we have a very important role in promoting elections and any sort of engagement with the Green Party with the Young Greens democracy as a whole, as a concept. So yeah, I would say the answer on the first part of your question is very and crucial. With regards to actually ensuring we do that in practice, which I think is more important, what we need to do is basically try and promote our election on some more platforms than just Twitter and email. I know that we do, but we need to expand on that. So even on Instagram, I think as Ola right earlier, that's growing absolutely. But yeah, basically in these parts, when it's appropriate, we do need to include it in our comms plans. That's not obviously my call or DAC's call, or that call, but certainly I think we can do a lot, and I think social media advertising as well as pushing the vote out on it is a positive thing for both democracy and accountability.
Thanks, Seb. Ollie, your hand up as well.
Yeah, just with regards to sort of helping Young Greens to feel supported and comfortable in engaging with democracy, which I think was mentioned in the question, unless I got that wrong. I think I brought it up at our last DAC meeting, the idea of kind of sort of a pre-explainer session on how like winter general meeting works and the whole sort of debating, can't think of the word right now off the top of my head, but basically we are sort of looking at ways in which we can help to ensure that our members don't feel sort of intimidated by the democracy process, and hopefully we will be able to sort of implement some of those ideas in the run-up to winter general meeting.
Thanks, Ollie. Yeah, I'll just briefly add to that. Yeah, the suggestion for a pre-explainer has been discussed. We're also planning to do some kind of example role play motion at the beginning of winter general meeting. It's going to be fun. Watch this space. My other side of this is a bit of a cop-out answer, but I think Young Greens have quite a tough task at getting high engagement proportionally, because like realistically, primarily members of the Young Greens are members of the Green Party, and members of the Green Party get a heck of a lot of emails from the Green Party, and many of them will see emails from the Young Greens and will probably associate them with the party, and response fatigue or whatever it's called technically is a concern. I think considering the pretty awful engagement in Green Party internal democracy, we do a pretty good job, but that's not an excuse to not innovate in attempting to find out better ways to engage people beyond emails. So communicating with digital comms officer, for example, is something we need to do more next time as well. We've got a question in the chat immediately from Jane. Are you going to record this role play so we can put it on TikTok? Now, that is not a question we have considered yet. If any other DAC members have a better answer than me, then feel free to put it out. I think our idea, I'll let Seb answer this one.
My answer would be absolutely yes. We should, if we have to take his bill to do that, and if it ain't called democracy and accountability.
Thanks, Seb. That is not the answer I was hoping to hear, but maybe I'll have to venture into TikTok now. Okay, I'll ask the other question that was pre-submitted, and then if there are any other questions, then let me know. This question is very similar, but what do you plan to do to improve turnout in next year's elections and engagement in convention democracy? Would anybody like to lead on that question? Fair enough. It's almost identical to the other one. George.
Yeah, so there's a really good blog. There's a really good post on the London School of Economics blog about driving engagement in membership organizations, where when you look at engagement, really you need to ask how easy is the process of getting involved, how members will be motivated to become active, and what triggers involvement. I think that's hard to do with what we do at the moment. I think even a place to start would be asking people what motivates them to come to convention, and if we could do things better. That's something that we do with conference for the National Party, but I don't think we do for convention, so I think that would be a nice way to maybe just start doing after convention.
Thanks, George. I'll also add on a more technical point, the voting system we trialed for last year's election, Green Vote, we were still having teething problems with it, but if it is working fully as it should be by next year, it will come with features which will make it easier for us to, for example, remind people who specifically have signed up for a convention but haven't voted yet to vote. So we won't be piling emails into every member of the Young Greens, but we'll be more tactical about it, and hopefully that can increase turnout as well. Are there any other questions? Yes, Ollie.
Yes, I have one question that's been submitted to me in the chat, and it's for you, Josh. How are you working with the co-chairs to ensure that EC members are supported in their attendance at meetings when they may have accessibility, work, or personal reasons for not attending?
Okay, that's a good question. So in terms of the attendance record I mentioned earlier, I've had individual contact with members of EC about attendance, reminders asking them if they're able to attend different meetings, especially when people have gotten, for example, a multiple missing attendances in a row. So reminding them and asking if they're able to come, and if not, are there reasons they're unable to attend on specific days, for example. So there is room for flexibility in terms of meeting attendance requirements. On the other point about accessibility, more generally, that's a fair point, and I maybe need to be more proactively communicative with the co-chairs. I'm happy to reach out to individual members of EC if there are concerns, but that's something I should be more proactive about. Specifically, on the whole, EC attendance has been pretty good this year, and also accountability in terms of completing reports has been very good this year. Already everybody has submitted their report on time. That wasn't the case for, I don't believe, any of the quarters last year. I might be wrong, but that's a good step in the right direction. But that's a fair challenge, and I will try and be more proactive about that as we go forward. Are there any more questions for me or any other DAC members? Go EC, says Philip. Thank you, Philip. There is another question kind of submitted for DAC online, but I'm happy to open this up to everybody. The question is from Kelsey, and it is not what's your favorite biscuit, but if you could be a biscuit, what biscuit would you be? I'm happy to first send this question to the people who didn't have any questions submitted for them. If you'd like to answer this first, go ahead. Otherwise, this is a fair game for anybody to put in. Hands up.
I'll go first, and I'll say it's got to be custard cream. But I mean, other than that, I'm done. Great.
Okay, thanks, Jack. Is anyone going to challenge custard cream? I'm sure Kelsey was anticipating more participation in this question than we're getting. Maybe I need to be harsher. Or we've got comments now. Okay, yeah. If you want to be a dark chocolate digestive, Lucy, then please go for it. I'm not going to stop you. Maybe Oxford City Council will benefit from having some digestives. I don't know. Seb says instant vote of no confidence for Jack. I'm not going to comment on the constitutionality of that comment, but clearly there are strong feelings about this. Philip has his hand up.
I was just going to ask if, I don't know if this is a biscuit or not, but if they are, I'm going to say wagon wheel, because they're made in a factory just around the corner from my house. So if any of you have eaten a wagon wheel in the UK, that's the only place they're made.
That's a nice creative answer, Philip. Thank you. And I see no one else is willing to answer that, so you may have won the final question. Congratulations. Wales Green Party 1, England 0. And Seb would rather be a Jaffa cake. That's fair. That's DAC's contribution. Right. This has taken just about an hour and a half, which is longer than I intended, but we had a lot of questions, and the chat is kicking off. So if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any more questions, please put them down in the comments, share this video with all of your friends, and meet us in December for the winter general meeting. Details will be coming out shortly. Thanks for everybody coming. You can go to bed or do something else, brush your teeth or something before you go to bed. I'm going to stop recording now. Thank you. Goodbye. And yes, thank you, Walla.